Yes. So how many people do we use to become a team?
background of motorsports. First, we challenge the idea of having human drive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Roborace Weekly. My name is Chip Pankow. I'm the Chief Championship Officer at Roborace, and today we're gonna talk about something a little bit different. A lot of times we talk about what we're doing on the track and what we're doing in the real world, but we're going to talk about a very, very important part of Roborace, and this is an area where teams do so much of their work and so much of their development. And that is on the simulation side. Everything that we do on the track, everything that you see in our Twitch streams is developed on the simulator. And as we got into this project and we looked at the available simulators out on the market, we quickly realized that for what we're doing with autonomous driving and autonomous racing, that we really needed to create our own simulator. So we have a project. It's codenamed internally Hive. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Hive project and what it is and how it's different than anything else that's out there on the market. And joining me is Matt Steele. Matt Steele is the project manager of this project and also the digital asset manager. Particularly when we're putting cars in the simulator, and now we're putting the metaverse objects into the simulator. There are a lot of digital objects, and they need to look good, and they also need to be in the right place. And all of these things fall into Matt's responsibilities. Matt also works with outreach and education to teach people more about Roborace and what we're doing. So Matt, first of all, welcome. Great to have you with us here today. And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at a quick video to kind of get us into this session. And Matt, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at?
Thanks, Chip. Happy to be here. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I like this video because it's showing our simulator running on one side, but it's also showing something called race control, which is on the bit on the right. And so what you're looking at here is the software that's used to sort of orchestrate the on-track stuff with the cars being used in conjunction with our simulator. So as far as the car is concerned, as far as the algorithm driving, it has no idea it's in a virtual world driving on a computer. It thinks it's on track. And so the way we do that, we have some magic up our sleeves to get all that running. But I want to dive a little bit in, first of all, to what it means to simulate stuff in the first place, because obviously you're looking at what looks like a video game. It looks like a racing game, and you're not 100% wrong, because racing games and professional simulators, the millions of dollars are spent on professional simulators in like Formula One and professional motorsports and in industrial applications and things. Both those and games do a lot of things with some of the same technology. So I kind of want to take a minute to just kind of dive into what does it mean to simulate something. So if we want to pull up this first slide, yeah, here's another video of we can get into this one a little bit later, but this is the metaverse with the metaverse objects overlaid over the simulator. But yeah, so this is just a simple little graphic to kind of show you what it means to simulate something. So when we say simulation, what we really mean is using a mathematical solver to process stuff and get something out of that. So we'll take a bunch of variables, and then they get piped into this math, and then out of the math spits a result of some kind. And what happens is this keeps repeating over and over. Can we look at the next slide? So it'll run the little solver, you'll get something, and that something will spit back in and change the variables, and those variables will change the math, and the math will change the thing, and so on and so forth. And this will happen, 1,000 times a second, whatever. And this seems really kind of crazy, but it actually does some really useful things, because what it'll do is it'll create natural behavior. And you might see this, this might be used to create the behavior of clothing. to simulate how a piece of clothing will move, or how some hair will move, or how fire will go through an area, or how air will move over an object, or in the case of racing simulators, how a tire might interact with the ground, or how the air might interact with the car, or the suspension might interact with the rest of the car. So this is used all over the place. This is used everywhere from games, even simple games, all the way up to, like I said, industrial simulators costing millions of dollars that are, being used to simulate real stuff. It's just, the difference is how it's used and why it's used. If we can go to the next slide. So in a, so this one, well, actually not this one. Can we go to the next slide? This one, yeah. So simulation, these solvers are used all the way across all kinds of different pieces of software. So you might have something like Mario Kart, for example, where, it's fun. You're just driving around, having fun with your buddies and dropping bananas and turtle shells and things like that. And that's actually still using some simulation solvers. They're more simplified, but they're being used to provide somebody who's playing the game a fun experience and to let everybody be competitive with one another. But that same concept is applied with really advanced math and really advanced variables and all that stuff to try to create a simulation that reflects reality as best we can. So like, can we go back to that tire graphic, the one that you just had right before this? So like the variables will then be really high quality detailed variables like downforce and tire temperature and loads that are on the tire and even the behavior of the rubber itself. And that'll go through some really complicated and elegant math to determine the grip. And if that's right, then the grip that you get from the tire is going to match what it would do in real life. And so that's in essence why we make simulators. Is what we're trying to do is we're trying to tune all these variables and we're trying to tune the math just so that what we get out of the end of it is exactly what we would get in the real world if we did the exact same thing to the car on the real track. And what that value, that gives us value because we can then test stuff in a safe environment where there's very little risk. So, these cars are crazy complicated, and people spend a lot of hours working on them and repairing them and making them work right and perform. And the last thing we want to do is test something out and have it, break the car and we have to go backwards on it. So can we kick forward a little bit? A couple more slides. Yeah, here we go. So vehicle simulation is going to have all kinds of solvers. It's going to have things like stuff for tires. It's going to have stuff for suspension. It might have stuff for aerodynamics or the transmission and engine. And basically everything on the car is all put together and communicating with one another to make sure that the car behaves like a real car would. So this is a lot of complicated math that has to talk to each other itself really quickly. And if it's built right, then what you get is a car that behaves in the virtual world the exact same way it'll behave in the real world. So the way most pieces of software do this is they build all of these into basically a package. And that package is, the car and is the simulator and is the world and everything, which is great because it works really fast and it can give you a really accurate result. But it's got a drawback, and that's if for some reason you needed to change out the way that the tire is simulated, for example, or there's some new technology or something that comes along in a couple years that we need to be able to quickly grab those things and swap them out to test and develop the car as quickly as possible while we develop the simulator as quickly as possible. So the way we approach it in Hive, which is a little different than the way most simulators are built, can we go to the next slide, is that we break up these little pieces and we have a secret sauce that allows them to communicate with each other really, really, really fast so that they can work together at the same speed that they would if they were all made together in one big bundle. But the cool part is, and the thing that makes it really interesting, is that we can pop off a piece and plug another piece in anytime we want. We can even do it while the car's on track driving and running at speed. If we wanted to test the difference between two different kinds of math to figure out the grip on the tires, we can do it. We can just pop one out, pop the other on, and see the difference right away. And so it's pretty cool. Also, since we're a development series, so we're building these cars out, and we want to be able to use new stuff that comes out. Say some whole new technology of sensor comes out, we want to be able to plug it into the simulator. This allows us to bundle up that into one of these little packages and pop it on, and away we go. We can get the car on track, and we can get the data, and we can try to keep iterating on it and make it as good as we can, so that we can really push the envelope virtually in the computer first, and then see what happens when we put it on track. And other cool things that we can do with this is where Metaverse comes in, is that we can, if the simulation is accurate enough, which it is, I mean, that's the point of it, we can run the simulation at the same time that we're running the real events, and we can do stuff in simulation that the car can't tell the difference between what's real and what's in simulation. So we can have virtual objects on track, and the car sees those virtual objects as real. The car thinks they're really in reality, and so we can interact. The car can interact with it that way, and we can do some really cool stuff that way. So this is all neat, and we now have a car that works, but we need to have a place to run the car, and so that involves building racetracks for the car to run on. Now, you might be familiar with fancy racing games, like Forza or iRacing or whatever, and they have these beautiful, really detailed tracks, and those are cool, and those are awesome, and they have their place, but they take a lot of resources to make. They take a lot of people and a lot of time to build them, and we have to be able to sometimes build stuff really, really fast. So we have a tool that we're working on called Ribbon that takes information from a bunch of different places. It could take a map from like Google Maps, and some points that are captured along the ground on site by some of our crew, and can put all that stuff together and can generate basically a game level, can generate a racetrack, and we could do it really fast. Like Vegas was made in just a couple of days. So yeah, that's another cool thing that we have going on. So we can build tracks really quickly, and then we can get our simulator on the tracks and experiment and test and play and come up with new and cool things to do to make Roborace push the technology envelope and also be a lot of fun to watch. So that in a nutshell is what we're working on. And yeah, so that answers some of your questions, Chip. I don't know if we have any others coming up. Yeah.
I mean, number one, congratulations to you and the team. I know this is the result of a lot of hard work, and is really starting to pay off for the teams competing in Roborace now. First question for you is, obviously we're dealing with a simulator that's looking to simulate the real world as accurately as possible, so we can get really good, valuable testing. How much of a challenge has it been kind of incorporating our virtual world of Metaverse into your simulator?
Well, there's obviously challenges to any new thing that we're doing. So actually, it's not been that hard because of the way that we build those little components. It's not just for the car; it's for everything. The whole simulator is built with these little components, and that includes the communication with stuff like race control. And so Metaverse is a platform that our team in Russia has been working on, and it's been pretty easy for us to coordinate with that and plug that in so that that software is able to communicate directly with our simulator, and yeah, it's really cool.
And that is kind of the trick here is the versatility of the sim platform. I mean, you kind of go through the brain damage of creating this sim platform, but the payoff of going through that is kind of having these building blocks that, as you say, you can kind of they're swappable. Okay, I want a different tire model in there. Okay, I want a different aero model. And particularly in the field of what we're doing with autonomous racing, the technology is marching forward every day, and it's taking pretty big chunks. So having Hive really allows us to, every time we have a step change in technology, whatever that may be, Hive allows us to adapt to that fairly quickly, rather than having to go out and create a whole new sim platform. Safe to say?
Oh yeah, and the reason the reason why that works is that the platform that we built isn't just like a bunch of stuff that we're making and then we put it together and we send it out and people use it. It's more of a standard for how we're making the stuff. It's called a framework in software, and so there's very strict rules to how each one of these little pieces is made. But as long as people adhere to those rules, their piece that they make can plug in, no problem. So the idea is that we have other teams, racing teams, other development teams, even eventually people in universities and hobbyists and things could take this and build their own pieces and plug them in and use it themselves. So that gives it a lot of power, because then it's not just on our shoulders to develop all this stuff, because we got a lot of really amazing, talented, super smart people working here. But there's also a lot of amazing, super talented, super smart people all over the world that have something to add to vehicle simulation. So that's sort of the idea behind what we're building, is we're trying to build something that everybody can collaborate on and make really cool stuff happen in simulation.
Yeah, and that pays off kind of our ultimate mission at Roborace. Roborace is about propelling innovation forwards in the area of self-driving. There's not some big secret black box that we're looking to kind of put everything out there, share it,
Yep.
And get, as you say, great minds all over the world, kind of coming in and working on that, and in some cases collaborating, and then ultimately coming together and see who's come up with the best solution. I mean, that's the fun part about it. And as you know, we're preparing this week for what we're calling Mission 3.1 in Las Vegas. Next week on the 30th and 31st, it's going to be airing here on Twitch. And to that end, what's been, we actually have real world testing this week. But what's been happening for the last 3 weeks since the last event is that teams have been on the sim, and they've been running their solutions based on what we call our mission plan. So the mission plan lays out, okay, what is the competition? You're going to have to do this, and this. So once they know that, then they can go and they can write their code, and they can tweak their software stack to be ready for it. And they keep doing that over and over in the sim. Obviously, the better and the more accurate the sim is, the better transition they're going to have from simulator to real race car.
Right.
And so to speak to that a little bit, what is the transition from simulator to race car like right now? Are there some things that can still be better? Are you pretty happy getting to really close alignment?
Well, it's an iterative process, and we're still iterating on it. I mean, up to this point, it's still a relatively young project. We've been doing this project for about 2 years now, and so in that time, we've been laying the groundwork, we've been laying the framework, we've been establishing sort of how the pieces work together. Now we're in the process of, we finally got it plugged together and working A to Z, but we're in the process of now refining those pieces. And part of refining those pieces is refining physics, refining tire models, applying tire models to things, applying suspension models, applying all of the stuff. And it's a continual improvement process. So yeah, we've got it running, and we've got things working, and upgrades are coming, and we're getting it better and better and better with each iteration. So, but there's really no limit. I mean, honestly, it's like diminishing returns. The closer you get reality, it's like approaching the speed of light. It's like it's harder and harder and harder. You can only get so real, and so we're trying to push that envelope to be as close to real as possible.
I know you're going to get there and literally stop time someday.
That's the plan.
That's the goal.
And then we go beyond it and reverse time, which is pretty cool. But then once we go far enough, we have to start over again, which is really frustrating. Yeah, exactly.
This whole twist again.
Yeah, we'll invent Groundhog Day.
Yep. Perfect. As you kind of get into this, I know in the early days when you were working on this project, it was you and your team kind of working in a bubble, and and we didn't bother you too much. And as we went to the first release of this simulator, we've now kind of we've taken the security blanket away, and we put your team in direct contact with the teams that are competing in Roborace. And what's that been like? Now you literally have a constant feedback loop from, there's 6 teams competing in Roborace, and there's probably, on average 10 people per team. So now you have 60 new customers to support. How valuable has that input been? And what's that process been like?
It's been fantastic. I mean, obviously, we work on building things in-house and trying to create, something that we can distribute and send out there. But, we only have so much peripheral vision on it. And we're building the framework, we're building the baseline, and we're doing what we know to do to make it function. But, until it goes into the wild and gets into the hands of everybody, we really don't know what we don't know. And so it's been a great process of discovery, learning the things that we need to focus on and the stuff that we need to refine, and kind of getting that feedback loop refined and the communication with all the teams. But it's awesome because we've been able to be in touch with so many great engineers and people that really know their stuff, that we can help. We can educate them, and they can educate us, and it's just been this really cool collaborative thing. And basically, we've seen our family grow, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's just going to make everything get better. It's obviously at first it's tough because it's a brand new piece of software, and it's something that's just getting on its feet. But I mean, that's to be expected in any new thing. The cool part is that we're getting everyone together, and we're building something strong and something really, really good.
No, I think that's a good way to put it. You kind of called it our family, and that is the way the project feels. Everybody's working towards a common goal here. Whether it be us on the Roborace and operations side, or the Metaverse team, or the Hive team, or the teams themselves competing. And I know we've even we've done some special projects for teams that we have one team that's going off in a completely different direction at how they look at path planning. And I know we kind of had to make some adjustments to the sim for them. But we looked at what they were doing. We thought it was a really interesting approach, and your team has been super flexible in doing that. And we look for because that allows them to do a ton of testing in the sim world, and that is so valuable to us, because successful testing and accurate testing within the simulation environment is what's going to make what we do on the track better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's fun because everybody. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying it's fun because it's all a big family, but they're also competing with one another as well, which is kind of cool. So it's like siblings, and you want to beat your sibling at basketball, right? But you're gonna collaborate with them, and yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, it's always amazing on the morning of competition day how all that kind of camaraderie and everything goes away. That's one of the fun parts of the project is to see that. Yeah, well, that does it for my questions. I appreciate I appreciate your time, number one, and also kind of distilling down and saying, hey, here is the concept behind Hive. I mean, I think the point here is that we had a specific problem that we needed to solve for, and you've done that. You solved and kind of created a new way of looking at simulation environments that allows us to be much more flexible and much more agile in taking in new developments as they happen within our simulator. So thank you very much to you and your entire team. I know it's been a pretty epic project. As you said, we look forward to continuing to iterate this. to make time stop. The and also, I mean, I think from time to time we'll share with our audience what we're doing. I mean, the stuff that you shared with Ribbon looks awesome. It's I mean, what you had up on the screen there, I'm actually sitting at the track in Vegas, and I mean, even the detail on the buildings and the offices is great, and that's only going to make what we do better. And as you say, particularly as we travel around with Roborace, we'll do that in season 1 in 2022. Sometimes we have to get to tracks really, really quickly, deploy quickly, create a map, get everyone on a sim and do things, and that helps our agility. So I know there's more to come from Ribbon, and maybe we'll take a deeper dive on that in a future weekly.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That Vegas track, the first the first round of that track, our lead for Ribbon is Ed. Ed Dustin Taylor, and he turned that first iteration around, I think, in 3 days, which isn't it. I mean, if anybody knows anything about making game levels or making digital assets, that's insane. It takes to put that in perspective. A team, a project, a track that you'd see on something like Forza, it takes many staff, months and months and months and months to build. And so to be able to turn something around so quickly that we can use in a meaningful way to do simulation on it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I
kudos
think
to the team.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the, I'm really, really proud of the team. I think we have an awesome team, and punching in, way over your weight. And that's what we look to do is kind of find these elegant solutions that we can do without a staff of 80. And by being clever and looking at certain problems in different ways. And that's something we always try to challenge our teams, our university teams and our commercial teams. It's like, hey, let's distill this down and see where the starting point is. And one of the big projects we're doing right now, which is looking at multi-agent racing, we literally changed the way we looked at that whole problem of how do autonomous vehicles overtake each other, and distilled it down to something very simple. And that's now kind of our North Star for that project. And for everyone watching, watch this space. By the end of season beta, we'll get there. And to that end, season beta is an experimental season for us. We're developing, and that's why we kind of push your simulator out in there. It's like, hey, let's put it out there, and let's develop this with the team, and kind of expand the members of the family that are working on it. So
right.
And really, really, really fun to watch. And we look for more great things. And thank you, and thanks everyone for tuning in today. And I'm sure we'll be back soon with some more fun things to talk about.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you.